Hello everyone and welcome to part 1 of my mini-series focusing on the BMC 1.8 diesel engine. My name is Rob Jones. I'm going to use this short video, part 1, as an introduction and just cover how I got into tinkering around with BMC engines, how tinkering became a bit of an obsession, and basically where I think the passion could take me in the future. The main aim of these is I'm on my 18th build now. I'm not a professional mechanic, but I've built enough that are still running in various parts of the world now, that I think I can impart some knowledge that could assist other people with maintaining, servicing, repairing their own BMC 1.8s and to some extent 1.5s. So because it's labelled up as a 1.8 video, it may well be worth watching them just in case you can pick anything up that's applicable to service and maintenance of your 1.5s as well. So I've already introduced myself. My name is Rob Jones, currently in the army, but coming to the end of that career. So in a year's time I'll be going on to pastures green and basically starting a new career. And I'll cover a bit of that, what that could look like potentially later on in the video. As a bit of history then, I think at the age of about 10 years old I was given a mini Mayfair by an elderly gentleman as a non-runner. He took me through some basic mechanical engineering. We managed to get the engine up and running, but the body was too far gone, so that never made it back onto the road. I think the engine then got taken out and sold to someone else as scrap, and then the vehicle became a banger racer, or had some horrific ending. But at a really young age, so of 10, I kind of got a passion for working and getting my hands dirty on the smaller sort of petrol engines, especially the Leyland, the BMC engines, Austin engines. They were so easy to work on, a really good learning tool. So we skipped forward 6 years later, joined the army, been there ever since. So let's not focus on what I've been doing with my life so far, but let's kind of focus on where we are now. So 2020, year to push, and I, as a sideline hobby, am on my 18th BMC 1.8 build. So I'm not a professional mechanic by any standard, but I like to think that I've built enough of these and gained enough experience that some of the knowledge and methods that I've picked up may be useful to other people, and as I mentioned before, some of this is applicable to the 1.5 as well. So I am getting certified as a mechanic, so should I go into sort of full-time renovations productions, at least people have got that warm fuzzy feeling that I am certified in what I'm doing and not just an amateur mechanic. So build number 18 is underway at the moment, and that's what we're going to use as the tool for these videos. So at the moment it's a block and a lot of parts in boxes and on the workbench. Backtracking slightly to the Mini back in the day, I got a basic tool set and took the engine out and started stripping it apart, and didn't label anything up, didn't label push rods up, didn't label anything up, and reassembly was horrific because I didn't have a Haynes manual, I didn't have anything. I just took this thing apart in the attempt that I built some Lego sets so I'll be able to put it back together. Hence why the old boy jumped in and actually took me through what I should have done. So that was my real sort of lesson into mechanical engineering, that it's not just a case of taking something apart and putting it back together. There's things that have specifications and measurements and things that need to go in a certain order and stuff like that. So I kind of carried that through my army career in various manners, working on armoured vehicles and Land Rovers and stuff like that. But as I said, 3 years ago I picked up a BMC 1.8. I think it had come out of a generator, and it had been sat in the side of a yard, exposed to the elements. And I just had to have it and tinker with it. I didn't have a boat at that time, but I was looking at buying a boat, despite my wife's wishes. And potentially, if I could get a cheap boat without an engine and put this one in it, it would have made my day. So I took this BMC home and took the head off. Pistons were full of water and all sorts of stuff, and it was proper seized up and everything like that. So the previous owner had basically written it off as a complete loss. But I'm one of these people that see a project and can't let old things, just die a horrible death. I have to try and fix everything that I find. So I stripped it down to all its component parts, and ended up with some salvage. I subsequently, 2 weeks later, bought another one down in Bognor Regis for, I think, 125 quid. That was missing its injectors and something else. And basically, using the technical docs, using what I'd learned, basically put the two together and came out with a semi-decent looking working engine. And I didn't have a boat. I poured a lot of money into putting this engine together, and subsequently I ended up selling it to someone else. And the last time I spoke to the guy, he'd put it into a Moody 36 and had emigrated, if that's the word, out to South Africa and taken the yacht with him, and the engine's still running to this day. So subsequently, 18 builds later, and I've never had any comebacks of any failures or anything. Things have gone wrong, but nothing majorly mechanically wrong. It's just little bits and pieces that have needed attention after I've either built or renovated engines for people. But like I said, I'm not a professional mechanic by any standards. I just have a good way of interpreting technical documents, and having a feel for understanding when to call it a day on certain components and have to put money into it, or seeking advice from other people on things that are questionable, whether they can be saved or not. The engines that I've built, I've never put anything that I personally wouldn't have in my engines, but I have used a lot of remanufactured, reconditioned parts. But again, I've always mentioned that to the person that I've built them for, that your pistons were salvageable, but we've had to put new piston rings on, or your roll bearing has written off your con rod, so we've had to take a con rod out of another engine and stuff like that. And then usually, given the news that that subsequently killed off your crankshaft and your bearings and so on and so forth. So skipping forward now, where I personally hope this goes in the future is, I'm using the time now to become a certified mechanic, so that I can open up my own workshop and subsequently offer warranties and guarantees on my work, and not just being an amateur mechanic. That's the dream. There's plenty of these 1.8s out there. They're going to be around for a long time. I personally hate anything with ECUs, computers and stuff that goes wrong, and as a motorboater as well, I'm kind of sticking with keep the engines basic so that they can be repaired out on the water, and with a basic bit of knowledge you can get yourself home. So I'm never gonna be in a position where I'm gonna have the ability to do crank grinding and stuff like that, I'll always subcontract that out. But I will be doing um, people's renovations. I will be providing marinized and non-marinized engines, and hopefully that puts food on the table for the family for the next 20 or so years. So hope that wasn't too dry. Uh, just a brief overview. Like I said, leave comments if you see anything that raises any alarm bells. I am an amateur mechanic at the moment. I'm always willing to learn, so constructive criticism is welcome. If there's anything anyone wants to see more in depth, I'll cover that. And like I said, I'll do some product reviews of what I have found not to work, what I found works really well, and hopefully that helps people in the future. So thanks for watching, and I hope people enjoyed the introduction, and part 2 will be posted fairly soon. Thank you.